Good morning, boys and girls. Today is an exciting day. It is the last day of school. I love the last day of school because typically we come to the all-purpose room to celebrate our amazing school, recognize students and staff, and watch end of the year videos. Before we move on with the assembly, I just wanted to share how incredibly proud I am of all of you. I know this year is like no other year we've ever experienced, and when we transitioned to Baker Online School, it was different for all of us. But your hard work and determination helped us get through. You did it, and for that, you deserve a round of applause. At this time, I would like to recognize our amazing Baker staff. First up are paraprofessionals, Mrs. Anderson, Mrs. Bankier, Mrs. Booth, Mrs. Bowling, Miss Brown, Mrs. Close, Mrs. DeBucci, Miss Dyer, Mrs. Francisco, Mrs. Getz, Miss Guerreri, Mrs. Kahn, Mrs. Mahan, Mrs. Mason, Mrs. Matos, Mrs. McGrath, Mrs. McHugh, Miss Meyer, Mrs. Moles, Mrs. Nassif, Mrs. Parahar, Mrs. Perillo, Mrs. Payne, Mrs. Powell, Mrs. Prohuchuk, Mrs. Quigley, Mrs. Reed, Mrs. Roustis, Mrs. Schaefer, Mrs. Smith, Mrs. Todd, and Mrs. Wolfram. Let's give our paraprofessionals a round of applause. Kindergarten teachers, Mrs. Hagan, Mrs. Kulik, Mrs. Kuzi, Mrs. Lee, and Mrs. Snyder. Let's give our kindergarten teachers a round of applause. Next up, our first grade teachers, Mrs. Burns, Mrs. Klatt, Mrs. Moreno, Miss Pacheco, and Mrs. Vaxman. Let's give our first grade teachers a round of applause. Our second grade teachers, Miss Bottinelli, Miss DeZamko, Mr. Rowan, and Mrs. Wagner. Let's give our second grade teachers a round of applause. Our third grade teachers, Mrs. Fagley, Mrs. Kowalczyk, Mrs. Nixon, and Mrs. Olson. Let's give our third grade teachers a round of applause. And teachers, Ms. Kaufman, Mrs. Custer, Mrs. Jazzy, Mrs. Kitley, Miss Kitley, Mrs. Lefferts, Mrs. Logan, Mrs. Myers, Mrs. Nolan, Mr. Sharkey, Mrs. Tallarico, and Mrs. Yaris. Let's give these teachers a round of applause. Our specials teachers, Mr. Ambrosino, Mr. Dickerson, Mrs. Zaranin, Mrs. Ferrugia, and Mrs. Petzold. Let's give our specials teachers a round of applause. Our main office, Miss Bancroft, Mrs. Petrilli, Mrs. Phillips, and our cafeteria, Miss Terry and Miss Debbie. Let's give everyone a round of applause.
Hi Baker Bears, Nurse Phillips here. It would not be the end of the school year without the official Baker tooth count. This year we lost 147 teeth. 91 teeth were lost during school and 56 teeth were lost during Baker Online Schooling. And this year, the student who lost the most teeth was Louise Walzak in Mrs. Vaxman's first grade class. Louise lost 4 teeth during Baker Online Schooling. Congratulations, Louise, and congratulations to all our Baker Bears who lost a lot of teeth.
We have had the privilege of working with some fantastic, dependable bus helpers this year, and Mrs. Klatt and I would like to thank each and every one of them. I'm going to start with our runner, who always did a great job telling us which bus was arriving when, and that would be Alex Crott. Next would VR14, Molly Flynn. Bus number 4, Patrick Murphy. Bus 5, Una Jian. And the largest group of children on the front blacktop was Bus 19, and thank you, Peyton McHenry.
I had the pleasure of supervising Wave 2, and I would like to award bus number M20C, Jacob Howell. M25C, Sanders Campbell. And last but certainly not least, M27C, Mark Ericetti. Mrs. Lefferts and I are grateful for all of your hard work and your consistent attendance. Have a great summer.
Baker Bears. Our third graders have been spending a lot of time over the past couple of years learning how to type, and they've all done a great job. But I wanted to take this time to honor a few of our Bears who have done an exceptional job over the past couple of years. They've worked really hard and they've gotten a lot better. In our typing race this year, we raced rockets. And in space, there are a lot of stars. The biggest and brightest stars are called supernovas. So this year, our typing award winners are called our typing supernovas. Our first typing supernova is Yuna Jun. Our next typing supernova is Brendan Carey. Our next typing supernova is Anjali Bezwada. Next we have Sienna Winter. Next we have Wyatt Tickner. And our final typing supernova is Ella Harris. Congratulations to all of our typing supernovas. You all did a great job. Keep up the hard work.
I'm very proud of all of you who participated in Recess Runners this year. As a school, we have ran and walked a grand total of 987 miles. Running and walking are excellent ways to exercise and will keep your mind and body healthy. This summer, ask your mom or dad to go on a walk or jog with you. Since we only had an opportunity to participate in Recess Runners in the fall, I am proud to recognize students who made it to the 10-mile club. In kindergarten, we have Jonah Brandt, Sadie Darby, Anna Jaredin, Hannah Kubat, Olivia Lestini, Noella Music, Andrew Romero, Abigail Shannon, and Stella Sinclair. Let's give our kindergarten students a round of applause. In first grade, we have Arjun Bodawala, Noah Edwards, Lena Hussein, Ishan Malik, Braden Tazika, Reese Villanueva, and Kendall Wedgden. Let's give our first graders a round of applause. In second grade, we have James Duncan, Cole Donaghy, Alex Gioretta, Anders Talone, and Marcus Young. Let's give our second graders a round of applause. In third grade, we have Mary Celeste Morale, Kenzie Clark, Juliet Diamond, Molly Flynn, Yuna Jian, and Emily Quinn. Let's give our third graders a round of applause. I would like to thank Mrs. Wilson, Oliver's mom, who organized Recess Runners this year. Recess Runners makes a difference in many lives, and without her time and effort this year, Recess Runners would not be possible. On behalf of all Baker Bears, thank you.
Hi Baker Bears! Can't believe we're already celebrating the end to yet another school year. Each year, at the end of the year, I get to present the I Care Award. This award goes to a student who has demonstrated extreme kindness and caring towards others. And this year, that award goes to third grader Addison Ford. Everyone give Addison a round of applause. Congratulations to Addison on being such a kind and caring kid.
On behalf of the staff at Baker School, it has been a pleasure to watch you grow over the past 4 years. Most of you came to Baker School in the fall of 2016 at the age of 5. While at Baker, you have learned to read, write, and solve math problems, made music, created art projects, participated in concerts and field days. You are both prepared and ready for the next chapter in your life at the UES. We wish you all the best, and please don't forget to come back and visit us at Baker. Congratulations to an awesome group of third grade students. We are very fortunate at Baker School because our Home and School Association is always there to help and support us with many wonderful events like book fair, assemblies, author day, class parties, and family fun nights, just to name a few. Mrs. Vandenberg, our Home and School Chair, and Mrs. Darby, our Home and School Co-Chair, played a big part in all of these events that took place this year. It takes a lot of time and hard work to pull off each event. Let's give a big round of applause for all the Home and School volunteers for their time and dedication to all of us at Baker. Every year, third grade students participate in the Morristown Knowledge Bowl after Unity Day. This year, students competed individually in Google Classrooms. I would like to recognize the top 3 students. In third place is Sander Reed. In second place is Emily Quinn. And our grand winner of the Morristown Knowledge Bowl for the class of 2020 is Miss Olive Lee. Let's give all 3 students a round of applause. One final time for the 2019-2020 school year, we will recite the Baker School Pledge. Please repeat after me. At Baker School, we try our best. We have good manners, we forgive, we respect each other, we keep our promises, we never give up, we encourage one another, we laugh often, we belong, we are a family. Now it is time to watch the end of the year videos. Enjoy.